Pay me, pay me, pay me my silver now. Pay me or go to jail. Pay me my silver now.
Good morning, good morning. Oh, I drank my chaga coffee. Bix Weir, roadrunner.com. Thank you for joining us. Very exciting news today. After me poking and prodding Jenny Moonstone to release her own Patreon channel, it is here. It is here, the Jenny Moonstone Patreon channel, channeling the Great Awakening. She's got so many great ideas on topics, not just silver and crypto related, but things that she is very much interested in. And go check it out. Go to Patreon. It's Jenny Moonstone, channeling the Great Awakening. Of course, her monthly subscription is $17 a month. She loves that. If you guys have a little money, go for the $25. She's going to do at least 2 a week. And we're going to get a weekly discussion going for her channel with myself, her asking me questions instead of me asking her questions. It's going to be great. So go over to Jenny Moonstone. Make sure you subscribe. Help Jenny out on a monthly. It's just $17 a month. Dive in, or if you want the exciting stuff, go for the $25. So bravo, Miss Moonstone. It's going to be fun. Can't wait. Go check that out. Silver is still rigged. Oh my God. As far as silver, there's so many new people who don't know the full conspiracy story. That's fine. You know, I kind of dive into the middle of, or the ending of where we are. Literally, for me, it's 20 years of research and analysis. So it just kind of flows. Oh, the COT is like this, and the criminal CFTC is doing this. But if you're new, all this is kind of weird. You know, you sit there and you go, oh my God, silver is undervalued. And then you see them slam silver from $30 down to $15. And you're like, oh, I should have never got into silver. The reality is it's controlled. It is manipulated just like every other market, 100%. There are reasons to do that, especially for silver. You look at silver and gold. Silver has had thousands of years as a monetary metal. Gold really has not. Gold was always the metal of the rich bankers. The bankers know, the bankers big up, know that there's massively more gold than what the world is telling you. Sterling and Peggy Seagrave spent their lives documenting over 300,000 tons of gold. And there's literally Supreme Court testimony, government hearing testimony, all kinds of documents. The documents that go along with their book, Gold Warriors, it's shocking, and it's factual truth. And if anybody doubts it, all you have to do is spend a couple days studying all their material to see, yes, there is massive amounts of gold out there. And there's very little secret silver. The only one really that I found was the Manhattan Project silver, which was a pretty damn big chunk, 3 billion ounces, that the U.S. government lent from its stockpiles back in the 1940s. That was to create the first atomic bomb. They needed all the silver for something called a calutron. A calutron was this massive magnet that separated and enriched uranium back in the day. In Oak Ridge, Tennessee, you might know it as the Manhattan Project and all that. But yeah, that was pretty important, and it has been proven. I have all the documentation that 3 billion ounces, up to 3 billion ounces, at least 1 billion ounces, was lent out from the U.S. government stockpile to make these magnets. And it was all done in secret, so anybody looking for documentation really couldn't find it back in the day. Now, I do have the documentation. I have the actual spreadsheets, not a computer spreadsheet. They're actual pieces of paper spreadsheet like in the old days of all the silver being transferred over to the Manhattan Project. And then it wasn't really a secret anymore when General Groves, who was in charge of the Manhattan Project, wrote a book about it. Now It Can Be Told, Now It Can Be Told. Is the book he wrote. And in that book, he says, yes, we had to borrow a hell of a lot of silver, and it was very important that we kept it secret from the public because silver was backing silver certificates, and they couldn't tell the world that they were lying. So you're not going to find it in the records at the time, but now it is widely known, but widely dismissed. And And then in the 1990s, they really needed silver. The silver riggers really needed the silver, so they shut down the facility. There were other ways to make enriched uranium by the 1990s. They shut down the facility and they shipped all the silver around the country, mainly to the LBMA in London. And I have all the data. I have all the import-export data that you need on that. So yeah, you hear about conspiracy like gold in the Grand Canyon. People, oh, there's no gold in the Grand Canyon. Jim Willey was classic. There's no gold in the Grand Canyon. And Lisa's like, how do you know there's no gold in the Grand Canyon? And he said, well, I had a buddy who used to whitewater raft it, and he slept on those banks, and he never saw any gold in the Grand Canyon. That's the analysis we get from the mainstream. No, I mean, it's well documented. There's dozens of companies that were mining gold out of the Colorado River up and down through the Grand Canyon until it was shut off. And yeah, I'd be happy to discuss that with anybody. Right now, Steve St. Angelo is trying to call me out on the gold in the Grand Canyon, and I'm like, bring it. Let's set up a discussion, and haven't heard back. So we'll see. You know, you might want to give him a little poke at SRS Rocco on Twitter to see if he's up for discussion, because I think it's really important that we fully understand just how much gold there is in the world. How are we going to value gold if we don't know how much there is? And then the Chocolate Mountain gold was exposed in the 80s and 90s. A bunch of congressmen flew out to Chocolate Mountain in California. It is now a military base and a desert wildlife preserve set up by Dianne Feinstein, who is now officially leaving Congress. Very interesting. I'm going to talk to Jenny today about that Feinstein stuff. There's more to it than meets the eye. Not just that she's old and senile, which is a given, and I think she's in her 90s now. It's crazy that she's a very powerful leader in the U.S. Congress. When it's like Joe Biden, the most powerful job in the world, and the guy is senile. So I heard what's her name, Jean-Pierre, the spokeswoman, say that he is the best communicator in the White House. When someone said, when's the president going to communicate about these things flying around? She goes, he's the best communicator in the White House. The sad thing is that's probably true, because the White House is completely inept. So he's the best communicator. I just had to crack up at that one. All right. But for all you new silver bugs, yes, there's massive amounts of gold in the world. We are literally running out of silver. It's been documented many times. As a matter of fact, I dug a little deeper into what's going on today, and most of you probably know silver set a record for imports into India. And it wasn't a little record. They imported over 300 million ounces, 4 times what they did the year before. And I bet you they're going to try to do it again, but there's no silver available. That's the big problem. And here you have India's love for gold is well known. It is the second largest gold consuming country in the world behind China. But Indians also have an affinity for silver. Mainly this comes from passing it on in dowries, and because they've had so many bank failures. Yeah, gold and silver are money to the Indians. They aren't, jewelry is money in dowry form. Last year, silver imports into India hit a record 304 million ounces. That crushes the previous import high of 260 million ounces in 2015. But, I mean, you think, oh, that's 44 million ounces more than 2015. 2015 was off the charts. Last year, it says right here, silver investment in India was muted during the pandemic, but charted a healthy rebound in 2022 of 79 million ounces. So that was a huge rebound of 79 million ounces in 2022. 2023 is 4 times that amount. 4 times the amount. This is not a little thing that's going away. Again, this is not a little thing that's going away. One of the really, I think, important things is understanding why this is all happening and the consequences of India, China, everyone around the world finally waking up to, yes, silver is money. It always was money. It's just the banks have pretty much blocked everybody from understanding it as money. Very good post here by Rob Keentz, who says that, he just uses the Silver Institute data that we are in a supply deficit. Supply deficit means we are consuming more silver. Silver is being bought, sold, and consumed in faster quantities than it's being supplied to the market. Supply comes from both the mining of silver out of the ground and the recycling of silver. Used to be a lot with photography, not so much now, but there's a lot of things you can recycle silver from. People are trying to figure out how to recycle silver from solar panels, but remember, these solar panels last 20, 30 years. And then when they get done, is it worthwhile to take a panel apart, spend hundreds of dollars doing that to get a couple ounces of silver? It's not. Maybe someday when silver's $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 an ounce, that might make sense. But right now, it does not make sense. So you look at the supply-demand deficit. We've been in a supply-demand deficit since 2019. So that's we're in our fifth year of the supply-demand deficit. Last year was, I believe, the biggest. I don't know if they've come out with the official number yet. But over what was it? Let's see. Nope, we had 2020. It's hard to believe any of this data, but 2020 was 258 million ounces. I would expect 2022 to be a hell of a lot more than what they have here, 96 million ounces, because of the 300 million ounces that went from other places into India. And I think that's something that isn't reflected in these numbers. So I would add 300 million ounces to the 96. That's almost a 400 million ounce deficit for last year, 2022, which means that's half of all silver mined in the world. Of the thousands of people and hundreds of companies mining silver, half of it went to India. That's just crazy to think about. And they're going to try to do more this year. And it's because the price is so cheap. You'd think the price would be like $500, $600 today. But because of the rigging, because of the manipulation, right now all the banks are scrambling to get out of the COMEX short position. The COMEX has stopped reporting the COT data. And by the way, they pretty much stopped reporting the OCC derivatives by hiding it in gold, even though those are plummeting too. This is the great runaway of the manipulators. They're trying to get out of the predicament they're in. They can't have silver and gold running crazy wild on the upside unless they're long. And I think they're going to be able to get long, being that they are being assisted by the Treasury, the Fed, and the regulators. Welcome to America. But okay, just on the supply-demand thing, how important is it? One of the biggest investors of silver in the past is Warren Buffett. He bought about 130 million ounces in the late 90s. He said, it's a whim. It was just a whim. I just saw silver as something that, Charlie Munger, his partner, didn't really agree with. It's bullshit. Buffett and Munger are lying. They know exactly what silver is. Warren Buffett was trained at his breakfast table, his lunch table, and his dinner table, the need for gold as money in the United States of America. He was trained by his father. Howard Buffett was a huge advocate of returning to a gold standard. Warren Buffett knows everything about gold, silver, and the manipulation. That's why he bought silver in the late 90s, and he was forced to sell. He didn't sell because he wanted to. He was forced to sell, or they were going to throw him in jail for a little problem he had with a big reinsurance company called General Re. The bad guys, the criminal banksters, took that silver, 130 million ounces, and they used it to create the first silver for SLV, which is their new rigging platform for the price of silver. So just to be sure that everybody understands why Warren Buffett bought silver in the 90s, let's hear exactly why he bought silver from the man himself back from a 2006 Berkshire Hathaway meeting. I remember I was listening to this baby live. Check it out.
Do you have any silver on you, Charlie? we had a lot of silver at one time, but we don't have it now. The original decision, my decision, was that the production of silver and the reclamation of silver, I don't remember the numbers exactly now, but they were running perhaps 100 million ounces or thereabouts less than the consumption. And now a lot of consumption has gone down in photography, but that's where the reclamation was too, so that those tended more to balance each other out. I haven't looked at the figures for the last year or so, but silver was out of balance. Now, on the other hand, there were enormous quantities of silver above ground, and there were huge quantities of silver that could possibly be removed from other uses, perhaps in jewelry and all kinds of things that could conceivably add to supply as they did in the early 1980s when the Hunt brothers thing took place. But overall, silver was being produced and reclaimed at a lesser rate than it was being consumed. And added to that was the fact that they're relatively pure silver mines. Silver is largely produced as a byproduct of copper, lead, and zinc. So that it was not easy to bring on added production. So all of that added up to the fact that I thought that silver would get tight at some point. And as I said, I was early in that conclusion, and I was early in selling.
There you go. What do you say? The deficit was 100 million ounces? What's the deficit now? 60, 258 million, 116 million, 100 million? I guarantee you Buffett is in there buying. Now, how would he buy now? How would he get his hands on silver? I think he's part of the JPMorgan, Bank of America lease situation of the 1.2 billion ounces, over a billion ounces of silver that JPMorgan accumulated while they were rigging the price of silver. Ted Butler's done some great work to show this from the inventories coming into JPMorgan. And who's the biggest investor in Bank of America? Warren Buffett. Yes, absolutely, Warren Buffett. And when he made his investments into Bank of America, Bank of America massively increased their silver derivative position to over 1 billion ounces of silver. So I hope this all makes sense. Yes, I do think it's Warren Buffett behind the scenes. I think he's doing it on behalf of the American people to help us get back to a gold-silver standard, and that silver is going to the U.S. Mint to make new silver eagles, and it's not a stretch. As a matter of fact, when you look at the derivative book of the U.S. Mint, they had $112 million loss in their derivative book on a year that the price of silver went down, which is being possible for the amount of silver eagles they were making, unless there was something much bigger. They made a mistake by hedging that silver that they bought kind of behind the scenes. They didn't tell anybody about it. And that's a problem when it is legal for the U.S. government to hide anything they want with the new accounting rules. It is absolutely perfectly legal that they lie, cheat, and steal, and rig markets. True. In the Gold Act of 1934, that created the Exchange Stabilization Fund, which legally had the ability to rig any market the U.S. Treasury deemed fit for rigging. So really interesting times. You can be on the ground floor of what Warren Buffett saw, a silver shortage. So far, we're in 4 years, and this will be our 5th year. I think it's going to be gigantic this year. And remember, this number does not include the 304 million ounces that India imported. So really exciting times for silver investors. I would like to point out that one of the biggest derivative holders of silver are the actual government-run mints. And I've been showing the U.S. Mint how much they've lost in derivatives, especially that 1 year when the price, when you're hedging silver, and that's the only reason a mint should be involved in the silver derivative market is for hedging the inventory. And they say they do, but that 1 year, 2 years ago, they were counteracted by when you hedge inventory, when the silver price goes down, you make money on your hedge. And so it balances out. Silver price went down in the year I was talking about, and they lost $112 million. So something else was going on. It's either they were just playing a crazy hedge book, or they were hedging some other silver, massive amounts of silver, maybe even the full 1 billion ounces of silver that JPMorgan has leased into the market through Bank of America, and ultimately it may be ending up either at Warren Buffett or at I think through Warren Buffett into the mint. Because I've done plenty of research on Warren Buffett. I know, Bix, what are you talking about? Warren Buffett's a deep state banker flunky. I wouldn't, there's nothing that points to that being in his history. Buffett has always hated the banksters. He chose not to move his operations to New York because they're a bunch of slimes, and he has saved the system more times than he has destroyed it. But he's waiting for the right time, I believe. And if you know Warren Buffett's father and how much he idolized his father, you'll see what he's doing in the background pretty clearly. Okay. New information. CFTC renewed what Biden's new agency picks hold for the crypto regulation. The three officials tapped by the Biden administration for CFTC roles come with promising crypto credentials, but can they live up to the promise? Three criminals put in charge of crypto regulation. But the key is this woman right here who is, what's her name? Kristen. Kristen, where are you? Kristen Johnson, I believe. Where is it? Yeah, here it is. What can the crypto industry expect from the CFTC if Rustin Benham assumes permanent chairmanship? Kristen Johnson and Gloria Romano join the agency as commissioners. CFTC came forward and defined, hold on a minute here. Oh, this is an old article. This is an old article talking about the new commissioners. This is when they got signed on. But what I want to show you is this woman, Kristen Johnson, being one of the main controllers of cryptos. She's another JPMorgan flunky. She's hiding her credentials. She didn't put it on the website. JPMorgan flunky, Kristen Johnson. And I want to talk about that because of this. Say hello to Snow White, ex-JPMorgan executive, emailed Jeffrey Epstein about the Disney princesses. So JPMorgan, who was knee-deep in the Bernie Madoff scandal, knee-deep in every scandal that has hit Wall Street in at least 50 years, this is more revelations. There's a lot of Jeffrey Epstein coming out, more revelations that one of the very senior guys reporting that Jamie Dimon was knee-deep in the Jeffrey Epstein, not only banking for him, but thousands of emails back and forth about really horrific stuff. And this guy's name is Jess Stanley. And there's new documents that are out. His name is all over it. Here's a picture of part of the gang. I can't say too much about this because of the censorship, so I'm not gonna. But go to Zero Hedge and look for this article. But I can say something about this. JPMorgan is currently under a deferred prosecution agreement for their criminal acts in rigging the market, $920 million for silver, gold, and U.S. Treasury market rigging. They are under a deferred prosecution agreement, meaning that anything they do illegally for the SEC is a violation of that agreement and adds another year. Because this agreement, it was signed September 23rd, right here, September 23rd of 2020, is a 3-year agreement. So September 23rd of this year, 2023, JPMorgan is let out of the silver, gold, and treasuries prison that they're in. They're currently managing the process through other people. But yeah, they're out on, they should be out on the 20th of September, but this happened. On December 17th, 2021, JPMorgan admits to widespread record-keeping failures and agrees to pay $125. That is in direct defiance of the deferred prosecution agreement. The deferred prosecution agreement says the DOJ can extend it for another year. So they could, if the DOJ had any inkling to do that by the end of the year, let's say we can't get this takedown of the bad guys done by the end of the year, they can extend for another year because JPMorgan traders were colluding together with other traders. RICO charges should have been brought, but they weren't because that would be a much bigger deal, and JPMorgan would have fought it. And because if they get charged with anything but spoofing, that leaves them open to the entire world suing them for silver price manipulation. With spoofing, supposedly you can argue that because the trades never went through, the people who are on the other side of those trades, the silver investors, were never harmed, which is complete bullshit. by the way. Tens of thousands of acts of spoofing is, by definition, market manipulation, because it does affect the price. It artificially affects the price. And if it didn't, why would they even do it, right? So, I mean, I disagree with what the DOJ settled on. They should have settled. They had all the emails back and forth from traders from bank A, B, C, and D saying, okay, you ready to rig the market lower? I mean, it's obvious, and they have confessions from people. It was an open and shut case, in my opinion. But I don't pick the judges who hear these things. They're all corrupt and criminal. We all know that. So, people have been trying to do class action lawsuits against JPMorgan. How do you do that when the judge is in with the criminals? And the regulators are in with the criminals, and the Justice Department, and the SEC, and the Federal Reserve, and the U.S. Treasury. They're all in on the game. So, yeah, good luck trying to sue JPMorgan for that type of infraction. As a matter of fact, if you look at I don't think this has been updated since 2002. The JPMorgan violation tracker. This is the criminal. These are the crimes they've had to pay for. Now, remember, I think they've only admitted to federal offenses 5 or 6 times, but we have literally 223 times they've had to pay fines since 2000, totaling $36 billion worth of fines. You might think, oh my God, how are these people still in business? I mean, this is going all the way. I mean, this has been updated. It hasn't been updated since 2002, but I mean, check it out. Every year there's 5 or 10 crimes that they just pay their way out of. And some of them are big, and like $920 million is the largest fine ever paid for anybody in commodity manipulation and U.S. Treasuries, but the largest fine ever charged against a company at the time. I think they've done a bigger one since with HSBC. But yeah, and so you're busting JPMorgan for rigging the silver and gold markets, and yet you still allow them to be the authorized custodian of SLV silver. Where is the common sense of regulators and of the DOJ when it comes to that? And it has to do with they're not really in trouble. This is all for show. But they are getting out of silver manipulation. JPMorgan was the first to get out, and now the other banks are trying to get out, but they're having a hard time doing that because you need somebody on the short side. If all the banks get out, who's going to be left, right? So anyway, yeah, there's a front page today. JPMorgan exec Jess Stanley was knee-deep in it, just like they were knee-deep in the Bernie Madoff. And yeah, that's what I got for you right now. I will be talking to the queen of Patreon. Make sure you go to Patreon, sign up for Jenny Moonstone Great Awakening, either 17 or if you got the money to help her out, 25 a month. You get extra special stuff. She's going to do has all kinds of ideas. It's going to be great. I'll be on that station as often as she wants to talk to me. So we'll get updates there. And Jenny will still be doing our weekly discussion, which I've got to go to right now. I'm late. This is Bix. I'll talk to you guys later.